everyone, and welcome back to Game Design Fridays. I am MsRheyRhey, and today I'm going to be showing you the progress on the Fallen Sleep video game. I have to be honest, this week I did not get a lot done. There was a lot of complications. I couldn't really work at all this week. But let's start with just playing the game first, and then I'll show you the things that I changed. Let me get this out of the way for a little while. Can I move myself right now? No, I'll just put it back because I'm going to be working on this part, or I'm going to be showing you things from this part after a while. So let's just leave it be. But for now, let's restart the tutorial and see if it, well, not much has changed except for the fact that, oh, hey, look, much bigger tutorial space now. That was for the things that I needed to work on. Okay. Ooh. So, the player, the scripting for the player has changed. I think it feels a lot smoother to walk around on right now, but the main functionality of it has not changed much. It's still WASD or the arrow keys and everything. I think turning for it was made a lot smoother. I think as long as he's moving, his turns like this will be smooth, but if you go from forward to back, it jumps. That's something I'm gonna still have to work on and do a lot of research on. The cat now, I mostly worked this week on the cat and the sheep. That was and some game manager stuff for like buttons and everything, but I'll explain that later. Right now I want to talk about the cat. I turned his AI a bit better, so now he's focusing on, he has two targets, his dinner and then me. His dinner he will absolutely always go towards first. That's his first priority, and then he'll deal with me later. So as soon as he gets the fish and eats it, he goes to roam a lot better now, just not circling in place like he was before. And he still tries to run away from me if I get too close. That is new. He's supposed to be on a nav mesh, and this blue stuff is not in a nav mesh. So, it's in the scripting on why he does that. But, and I'll show you the scripting when I'm all done. Ooh, I almost fell. That was dangerous. And anyway, okay, the next thing I worked on, because the sheep and the cat have very similar scripting, I worked on the sheep next, because if I got the cat to work and roam, I can get the sheep to not be so jaggedy and sporadic when he runs towards me and just in general. So now he's on a wandering thing, the same as the cat. If I get too close to him, he targets me, and okay, vertical was not something I was expecting, but am I on the, he pushed me towards the wall. Okay, on the wall. That was very lucky of me. Otherwise I would have been falling forever. I don't think my death zone volume goes past the level. But yes, he pushes you back quite a lot. I was not expecting. Yep, okay, R to restart. Was not expecting, it wasn't going vertical before. I don't know why it is now, but I'll fix it. This is still in a fixing stage. Those are what I fixed. He doesn't just like push you back a lot. Well, I mean, I can fix the whole how much he pushes you back in here actually, but other than that, the menu I now have stopping everything. So like the cat will, and I pause and the cat stops. Everything in the game stops now on the pause and resumes as I hit resume. It's actually I found something out really neat when I was fixing that as an easy fix. I knew how to do that without researching, but it's just something that came up. So anyway, that's mostly the changes. Well, that's all the changes I had so far. They were like really big progress steps for me, just not like when you play. So let's move here and I'll show you how I changed the cat. I can't remember. Maybe I'll have it, what do you call it, in like a little screenshot on what the cat script used to look like. But for now, it's loading, it's loading. It's on my other screen, so I'll move it once it's done loading. And I have it on big text, I'm pretty sure, because I can't read for crap without my glasses, and I can't have my glasses while I'm on the computer. Come on, keep loading. Oh, I touched you. Now you don't want me. Oh, hey, look. There we go. Here is the cat. So let's start from the top. I think maybe I can do this now. I just like my face being in here, guys. I'm sorry. I like seeing my face sometimes. Actually, let's go to 150 so I don't need to like be right up in the mic and the computer. Okay, so starting with the cat script, I have a public bool, so I know when the cat is going to run from me or not. I have it set to false automatically. There are floats which just deal with like whole numbers, so I have 5 technically, but 4 to start. There's the time it takes for him to roam, the roam radius, which I will be explaining further down, the move speed, how fast the cat is moving itself, and how fast the run speed, which is how fast the cat will be running away from me. I have a navmesh agent called Agent that will monitor the cat's navigational agent in the game that pretty much runs its AI, where in the space it should move. Right now, it's there's this part of the script that I know is circumventing it because it's not supposed to move along the white tiles. And I will figure out a way to fix that. I have game object human, so I can so the cat will be able to identify either the player character or whatever it wants to run away from. I have a game object array in case there are more fish in the level. The array will we'll look through the list of assets I have in the game and see which ones are labeled for fish and collect them all in just like a little neat packet, and they're all going to be labeled fish. I have a bool, which is a binary true or false, if I didn't explain that before, of whether there is fish in the level or not. And instantiate, this instantiate is referencing another script, which I have right here, which is where it's just a little invisible box in the game, which I have to bring the fish out when I need it to, and I will explain that when I have to work on that later. Actually, I think I did a little bit of work on that, but I'm working on the cat right now. I'm telling you about the cat right now. And then I have another public float. When it says public, it just means that I can adjust the variables within the Unity mainframe. Like I will go to cat. Where is cat? Oh, it's not even labeled. I have a low poly cat because this is an asset that I borrowed. So here in the cat script, you see the public bool is run. The roam time is the radius, the move and run speed. Because these were all public, I can adjust them here in the cat's script inspector. That is just what public means. When it's private, it means I have to go into the script and manipulate it through there. That's all public and private means, is whether I'm going to adjust it in game, in editor or out of editor. And then I have a public float of human distance run, just how far away the cat wants to run away from the target human before like the radius, so he doesn't have to run anymore. Void start So at the very start of the level, or whenever the cat is active within the scene, I have the script figure out where in its cat asset that the script is in, the navigation agent is, so it will be able to navigate its way through. I will even show you. So if you have this little nifty tab in here that's called I need to rebake that. No wonder it was doing that. Okay, rebake. There we go. So now it should work better. It won't be like in here anymore. These little blue lines are the navigational AI pretty much. Now, because you saw like the little squares before, that's where the cat thought it could go. Thank God the beanbag and the fish were within that area. And when you rebake it, now it pretty much works for terrain, not necessarily any other kind of asset. When you use a terrain, it automatically has, the navigation in here will automatically make a blue perimeter of where anything with a nav mesh agent will be able to roam. So it will automatically, agent will automatically get the navigation agent from the cat, which is right here. It's at the very bottom. I just set everything to its default because it's just, they don't have specific parameters for a quadruped, just a biped and miscellaneous objects. So humanoid is what I stuck with. So it will get that from the very start. Update just means with every frame of the game, this script will check for all of these parameters that I added in here to make sure that it will continue to do so while the game or the level is running. So at first I have what determines how to run away from the human or for how long. I had to make a new float for just this parameter called, I don't know if it's parameter or variable. If you're using JavaScript, it's called a variable. So maybe I should just use that. A float called distance, and I had this float equal whatever the vector3 distance is from the cat and the human. Vector3, that just means it's working with a 3D object. It has the length, the width, and the depth. So that is what you usually use when you're trying to figure out a 3D space for a 3D object. Vector 2s are usually for like 2D sprites, so it would do length and width. And there is, I don't know what they're called, but there are certain aspects of the vector 3 that you can use in the scripting. This one I had to use the distance so the cat won't be able to measure its distance from certain objects. And it will be measuring the distance between the cat and the human transform. The transform is in here. It's where its position in the level is, its rotation compared to the 0.000 or the 000 position of wherever this level is. That's very important. And then the scale, which is just how big the cat is from any kind of angle. But right now in the script, it is measuring the position of where it is in the level. And so that's a new parameter just for this, what is this called? Just for kind of in this state method. I can't remember all the jargon. But anyway, if I have it to where if this new variable distance is less than the float of the distance the cat I have up here, where if it's less than the distance that the cat has as a parameter to keep away from the human, then I have it set to the bool is run is true. And where is it? The cat, the transform translate, can't remember what translate means, but anyway, if that distance between the cat and the human is less than the distance I have that the human has to be away from the cat, then the bool is run is true. I have the cat set to move its forward at its run speed, so it will be running away in a forward motion from wherever its forward is. Like, this is my forward, now this is my forward, things like that. I have a new vector 3 called direction of human, which equals the cat's position minus the human's position. And I have a separate vector called new position, which equals the cat's position plus the direction of the human. So those are all pretty much in the parameters of numbers. If the new position where that the vector 3 is saying is the position that the cat is in, the numbers of the position of the cat is in, plus the direction where the human is in. Wait a second. Why? What is this purpose? Oh, okay. Well, that is for the new position. And okay, so yes. So these all still have a purpose. I thought I was just leaving in lines of code that didn't need to be there. Okay, so that the direction to the human has to do with the vector 3 new position. And I have it to where the navmess agent on the cat, if the distance is less than the distance the cat wants the human to be in, I have the agent set to go to the new set destination of wherever this new position equals when you put the number of the position of the cat plus the direction of the human. And so that will happen if the distance float parameter that I made is less than the distance the cat wants the human to be in. Otherwise, isRun is just false. And if where is isRun equals true? I have it in here somewhere. I'll get to it. Okay, anyway, if the isRun equals false, which means the cat is not running away from the human, I have it set to, and I have it set to do a certain number of things. If the roam time for the cat, so like for the amount of time the cat is moving in one direction, is greater than 0, then I have a new position vector 3, not this same new position, but a different one, because this is within a separate set of brackets. I have it set to where a new vector 3 position will equal a random nav sphere position. So random nav sphere pretty much means any random area within the navigation, the blue little navigation square that is in a random nav sphere. So it's sort of a radius of wherever the cat is in the level, plus the roam radius, or not plus the roam radius. Where is this? What was it? Okay, so it says right in there, I don't think if I do this, will it be? No, it won't. Okay, but that does make it easier to read a little. Okay, anyway, the nav sphere needs 3 parameters. It needs the origin of the transform that we're moving. It needs a float for the distance that it's going to move, and it needs a layer mask. A layer mask is not something I have worked on much in the Unity sphere, but there are different layers in Unity. There's a default that's 0. There's transparent layers, there's raycast layers, there's water, everything. If you set the layer mask within the Unity editor to -1, it will just say, okay, so we are looking for something for everything in the layer. We are looking for every layer. It's looking for which layer it will need to work through, and it says, okay, if you put -1, that means all the layers. You're gonna have to work through all the layers. So that new position will be any random place within that navigation square that I have the cat in, and its roam radius. The roam, where was that? Something else, I remember. Okay, anyway, so I set those parameters, and then I set the new destination for the nav agent in the cat to that new position. So any random time within that frame, within the roam time until it is, until the countdown is to 0, the cat will move forward in that destination. And then the roam time will decrease. That is the timer aspect of it. So roam time will be minus or equals to, meaning it will, minus or equal to, meaning it will never be above time.delta time. Time.delta time has to do with your computer's internal clock. It will use your computer's internal clock to figure out how much time it has in between every single frame. Time, that's what time is. Delta time is the completion time in seconds since the last frame. So delta time is counting those microseconds in between each second. So if you have a float minus or equal to a time.delta time, that means that the float parameter that you have will decrease over time within a normal amount of seconds rather than just like game seconds, because those are very different things. So I have it set to set the cat's new destination with this, and then count down to 0 once that is above 0. And if it's equal to or below 0, I have the roam time in here in else, because if there's an if statement, there can be an else statement. There doesn't always have to be, but there can be. If the roam time is greater than 0, all of this happens. If it is equal to or less than 0, I change the roam time to 10 seconds. And so that way it will just count down to 10 every time. And that is all of these about the distance to run away from the human for the cat. That's a lot. Okay, I'm rambling. It's already been 25 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna have to be a lot less complicated because I still have to go through the sheep. Okay, and now in the update statement, this is where you identify where the fish is. So the array of fish is equal to any object within the Unity, what's it called? This is called a hierarchy. So a hierarchy is basically a list of all the assets within the level. If any game object within that hierarchy has the tag fish, then it will be set into the array list as fish. And I have a new game object in here called new fish that will equal a specific number to fish. Like if there's fish, it will start with fish 0, as they always do. It will go fish 0, fish 1, fish 2, fish 3, instead of like if there are different names for things that I have tagged as fish, it will just say, okay, well, you're fish 1, fish 2, just so there's less confusion for the computer. So I have it set to the game object new fish will automatically equal the first fish within that array, so fish 0. And if the array list of fish is greater than or equal to 0, the bool, so the binary true or false bool, fish here will equal true. And if right here it's the bool fish here equals true, the cat will automatically set its new destination to wherever that new fish is. If the game object new fish, which is fish 0, if it is no longer active in the hierarchy, if it's checking its active self as false, then fish here, the bool, will also equal false. And so if the, I guess I voided that, but I have it set to where if fish, I had it set before, if fish here equals false, then it will just go back to roaming the area and trying to avoid the human. I guess I didn't really need a parameter if fish was false. I just needed to, once the fish is no longer active in the level, it will just automatically go back to roaming. Because I have this all here below all of the line of code where it says, okay, well, this is how you roam and this is how you avoid the human, then this really, any line of code, the reason why there are lines here is like it sets itself a list of things to do. This is list 1, this is list 34, this is list 39. So it has to do everything in order of these code line numbers. So because it's looking for the fish after it's trying to roam or run away from the human, if the fish isn't there, it will just go back to roaming and running away from the human. And then this in here, I have a static method, so it's a public static method, so it means if I need to get into this line of code, but from another, not necessarily one that the cat is in, but maybe just like the sheep or something, I am allowed, because it says public static, I am allowed to get into this code and use this as a reference point for whatever other script I'm using. But I have it as a vector3 static method for a random navigation sphere. That is what I have up here. I have set the parameters in here for the transform origin, the float distance, and whatever the layer I'm looking for is. And that would be integer, because in here, in Unity, the layers are numbered from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way however many layers you need. So that is why it is looking for the integer, because each layer is numbered with that integer number. Right, integers are whole numbers, floats are that sliding decimal scale. So that's why you can do delta time. Okay, I'm relearning things, sorry. So float isn't necessarily whole numbers. It can be anywhere between 0 to 1 and beyond. Integers are whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyway, okay, so I have the public static method, random nav sphere. That's what we were going in through here for. So this up here is referencing on here because it is separate from the update method. I have it set to where any vector3, so a 3D object, the distance that 3D object wants to be in, and whatever layer it will have to look for that 3D object. I have a new vector3 position called random direction, which will equal any random position inside unit sphere. So inside unit sphere is basically the radius, a radius. Sorry, I'm looking at my recorder and I'm moving a lot apparently, and it's confusing the camera, but it doesn't say any frames were dropped. Anyway, so inside unit sphere will be a sphere around any position where 0, 0, 0 is in the Unity level. So position 0, 0, 0, I actually have where the camera is. So right here. So so at this position, if I make a sphere of 1, it will be this right here. If I make a sphere of 50, it'll be like all the way over here, but it will always, the center will always be 0, 0, 0. Excuse me. So the random direction vector3 that I'm making will be a random position inside any of that unit sphere radius that I make times the float distance parameter that I make. So whatever float number I put in here, that will be what random direction equals. And then random direction plus or equal the cat's origin position. So wherever the cat originally is, the random direction will be added towards its movement towards that random position. I'm making a navmesh hit results in information. So that's just the information of where the cat is in space and things like the information from the nav mesh. And you call it, that's a new variable, so we're calling it nav hit. So just so you know, it's the navigation mesh hit. And so anywhere in the nav mesh, a sample position A sample position will be anywhere in here, just at any point within this random navigational space that the cat is allowed to be in. So anywhere in here will be the sample position. And the parameters for it will be the source position, which we made random direction, the nav mesh hit, so it knows where the cat in that navigational system is, the distance, which is the float parameter that we made, and then the mask. So it needs, so that the sample position can figure out how to get the cat moving in a certain way within that place. And then you return a new navigational hit. You'll return it to the cat's navigational information position. So it just helps it move certain directions without really needing like navigational points. In certain time before I realized this, to make a cat like move around a navigational space, you would need to put like little radius spheres and say, okay, go to point A, now go to point B, now go to point C, now go back to point A. Like you would have to make a routine area. This way you can just have it roaming around in whatever computer thinks is a random area without it looking janky. So that is why, all of that is why I can get the cat to move around, and I need to make the human run, because if I'm gonna have the space this big all the time, moving it around is not gonna be fun. It's gonna be super slow and paceful. So that is why the cat can seemingly just roam wherever, and it kind of just roams wherever like a cat. Okay. I'm already going on this for over half an hour. The sheep actually, I think I've said this before, I have it right here, is pretty much the exact same thing. A lot of the parameters are really the same. The only difference I have in the sheep, it's a little less because the sheep isn't looking for fish. The only thing I have different in the sheep is it's not looking for fish, and I have a radius around the sheep. Let me find the sheep. Okay, this little circle right here is its trigger radius. It's a collider. It's a sphere collider. Where is it? Right here. That is its trigger. If it's a trigger, that means you can run into it. It won't like push you back. Like if I couldn't walk through the beanbag chair because I had a collider that wasn't a trigger. If I go through this sphere, it is a trigger, so I could walk through it. It doesn't affect the physics of the game. But if the player, if something with the tag player goes within this trigger, is follow is true, and if it comes out, is follow is false. Now, in here, I have where if is follow equals true, the sheep will now set its navigation agent to the target position. The target is the same as the human. I have it set to where, okay, so now the sheep will go after whatever player is within its trigger volume space, which will be the player. And I also have it set to if a collision, which also messes with the collider, it actually more messes with the capsule collider I have on the sheep, which is this tiny little oval instead of the sphere. It is not a trigger, so it will push back the player. It will collide with any other kind of physics object. If the sheep collides with anything with the tag player, so maybe not necessarily the player, but if something were tagged the player, it will push the rigid body of whatever so if push.gameObject, so if it's colliding with the push variable I made, if the push game object has the player tag, it will find its rigid body within the push variable and add force to it. So that's how the sheep pushes you, the player, back. It will add force of the player position, its transformed position, but in a negative way. So wherever I'm facing, it will, or wherever front is for the player, it will push it back. It will go negative forward, so backwards, times the push back float. So I have the float set in here to 200. I have it set in here to 175. It will just push me back a lot. I had the default once as 10, so it was just kind of like slowly pushing me. Now, because it's a sheep, it kind of needs to like headbutt you. I'm thinking more of a ram than a sheep right now. But because it will like blunt force you, it will push you back further. So that's pretty much just where it is. I'll show you. I'll have it set to 20, the sheep, and then we'll go see the sheep. So completely ignoring the cat. I don't need to help it get any kind of dinner. It's fed itself like 30 times by now. So I will get within the sheep's sphere. It will start to follow me, and see 20 really doesn't like do anything. If I set it to, let's say, okay, well, I can't keep doing the slider. You can do a slider in here, by the way. If I set it to 50, I think because the mass of the human is heavier than the mass of the rigid body on the sheep, it just doesn't push it very often. But if I do 100 in here, it'll push me back a bit more. So I don't, 100 though, to me, doesn't feel like it's really pushed, like, it doesn't really feel like it's halting your progress too much. That's why I have it to nearly, well, let's just go 150 for now. That's why I have it nearly to 200, because it really pushes you back. Like it's supposed to be a hindrance to you. So there you go. 150 is perfect, actually. And then I have it set, I think the only other thing I have that really is any kind of progress is in here. I have it set to halt all game physics when I pause, and then to keep everything moving again once I. That will be in. Stop. This is phone. I'm trying to do a thing. That is in the game manager right in here. This is where I just have a call to the scenes, how to get from like the menu to the tutorial to the next scene. I have all of the pause buttons in here, so this works with the UI, which is like the menu options, any kind of buttons. Whether or not you can go to the next level, because I have the script key, which is this one right here, script key. I have a reference to that in here. So if the key is found, you can go to the next level, which is to the door. The only other thing I have in here is when you press P, which is how you pause the game, I have it set to time.timescale. Timescale is how, is almost in a way the gravity of the game, but it's really, it doesn't have anything to do with like how fast anything with physics in there falls. It's just sort of like how you do slow motion effects in there. Mostly, it's a 0 or 1 type thing. So 0 is complete halt and 1 is like resume normal time. But it is a sliding scale, so that's why it's called time scale. If I were to put in, instead of 0, which is complete halt, like 0.3, okay, 0.3f, because if you don't put the f in there, saying that it's a float integer, and integers cannot be decimal numbers. So I have it set to 0.3. Let's let it compile in here. Play. Okay, well, wait 1 second, so I don't have to keep waiting for things. Where are you? Right there. Let's just go see the cat first thing. Okay, so P. See, the cat is still moving, it's just moving rather slowly. And then I have it set to when you press resume on any of the resume button after you pause it, I have it set to 1. So it will just go full normal speed again. But let's see. And then the cat is moving slowly. The cat is moving regular. It's just rather slowly, regular. So that's what happens when you change the float parameters within the time scale between, it only really works with between 0 and 1 because those are the original binaries, 0 or 1 with computers. 0 meaning closed circuit, 1 meaning open circuit. So let's just change that back to, those are pretty much the most progress I made these last week and a half, really, because like I said, things happen. But yeah, that's this week's progress video. I have been going on for over 40 minutes, so I will have to scale this down a lot. But I'm so happy that you went this far with me. I will love to show you the progress I made next week, and I will see you guys later. Have a great weekend.